the silent golden light of the savannah, legends are not written with ink. They're carved into the earth with claws and roars. These are not fairy tales. These are the raw, untamed truths of the wild. Stories built on power, on blood, and on the fall of kings. We journey deep into the heart of lion territory to uncover the fates of rulers who dominated with unmatched force and unshakable will. From the savage Mapogo coalition, whose brutal reign rewrote the laws of the African bush, to Scarface, the battle-worn king of the Masai Mara, whose every scar told a story of survival, and Cecil, the majestic leader of Hwangi, whose unjust death sent shockwaves across the globe. These are not just lions, they are legends. Their battles shaped landscapes. Their legacies reshaped how we see the wild. If you're ready to witness the true saga of the greatest lion kings ever known, hit like, subscribe, and join us as we roar into history. The wild is calling. Will you answer? The Mapogo lions, brothers in blood. In the unforgiving wilderness of South Africa's Sabi Sands, a brotherhood of lions rose to power and carved their legacy in blood. Known as the Mapogo Coalition, these 6 males, Makalu, Pretty Boy, Dreadlocks, Rasta, Kinky Tail, and the infamous Mr. T, rewrote the rules of lion dominance between 2006 and 2012. Together, they formed one of the most formidable coalitions ever witnessed in the wild. The Mapogo lions, brothers in blood, is a raw and gripping exploration of their rise to power, their brutal methods of conquest, and the deep bond that held them together. Unlike most coalitions, the Mapogo weren't content with controlling a single pride. They spread across vast territories, ruling over multiple prides and leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Reports estimate they killed over 100 lions, cubs, rival males, even females, anything they perceived as a threat. But beyond the violence, there was loyalty. The Mapogo lions hunted together, fought together, and defended their legacy with unmatched ferocity. Their story isn't just one of dominance, it's also one of unity, survival, and the harsh reality of nature's law. As time passed, the cracks began to show. The deaths of Kinky Tail and Mr. T signaled the beginning of the coalition's slow downfall. Yet even in their decline, the Mapogo remained legends, etched into the landscape, feared by rivals and revered by those who witnessed their reign. This segment takes you inside the rise and fall of a lion brotherhood whose story has captivated wildlife enthusiasts around the world. The Mapogo weren't just lions, they were a living symbol of power, loyalty, and the brutal price of supremacy in the African wild. Scarface, the king who wouldn't die. In the heart of Kenya's Masai Mara, where survival is a daily war, one lion rose above the rest, not just as a ruler, but as a living legend. His name, was Scarface. Born in 2008, Scarface was one of 4 brothers, Morani, Sikio, and Hunter, who would come to be known as the 4 Musketeers. Together, they carved out a territory and took control of the Marsh Pride, dominating the region with strength and unity. But Scarface was different. A savage battle over territory left him with a torn eyebrow and a drooping eyelid, a scar that gave him his name and a face that would become world famous. He bore the mark of every fight, a damaged eye, a permanent limp. Yet through injury after injury, Scarface endured. While others faded, he held his ground, calm, calculating, and majestic. For nearly a decade, he ruled. Tourists came by the hundreds just for a glimpse. Filmmakers captured his journey, and still he limped through the grass like a king who feared nothing, not even death. But even the strongest lions cannot outrun time. In 2021, Scarface lay beneath a tree in his homeland and slipped away. There was no final roar, no violent end, just peace. To die of old age in the wild is rare. To die in peace, almost unheard of. Scarface was not just a lion. He was the story of survival written in scars, a king who defied death for years, until finally he chose to rest, a legend forever etched into the soul of the Mara. Cecil, the king who shook the world. In the vast wilderness of Zimbabwe's Hwange National Park roamed a lion unlike any other, a majestic figure with a jet-black mane and a calm, commanding presence. He was more than a predator. He was a symbol. His name was Cecil. Collared and monitored by Oxford University researchers, Cecil was part of one of Africa's most important conservation studies. But he was also a star, known by name to tourists, photographers, scientists, and safari guides alike. He was confident, charismatic, and unmistakably regal. Wherever he walked, heads turned, cameras clicked, tourists whispered in awe. He was the king of Hwange, and he wore the title well. But on a quiet day in July 2015, everything changed. Cecil was lured out of his protected sanctuary by bait. Under the cover of darkness, he was shot with a crossbow. Wounded and in pain, he was tracked for over 10 agonizing hours before finally being killed. The man behind the shot, an American trophy hunter who had paid $50,000 for the kill. News of Cecil's death sent shockwaves around the world. Outrage spread like wildfire. Protesters took to the streets. Candlelight vigils were held. Celebrities and politicians condemned the killing. And the image of a fallen lion, once proud and free, became the face of a global movement. Cecil's story forced the world to confront a difficult question. What is the true cost of trophy hunting? His death sparked fierce debate about conservation, ethics, and the human role in wildlife management. But more importantly, it led to real change. Countries began reevaluating hunting permits. Airlines banned the transport of lion trophies. Donations to wildlife organizations surged, and Cecil became the face of something far greater than himself, a call to protect, to respect, and to preserve. In life, Cecil ruled his pride with strength and dignity. In death, he ignited a movement that stretched far beyond the plains of Africa. Cecil reminded us that these creatures are not trophies. They are lives, that a single bullet can silence a roar, but it can also awaken millions of voices in protest. Cecil was more than just a lion. He was a teacher, a symbol, a martyr. And though he is gone, his roar still echoes in courtrooms, in classrooms, and in every heart that believes the wild is worth protecting. The Tsavo man-eaters, reign of fear. In 1898, as the British Empire pushed its iron rails through the wilds of East Africa, construction on the Kenya-Uganda Railway came to a sudden and horrifying halt. In the heart of the Tsavo region, two massive, maneless lions emerged from the bush and turned the night into a living nightmare. Workers began to vanish from their tents, without warning, without a sound. Screams would pierce the darkness, then silence. Night after night, the attacks continued. Fear gripped the camps. Hundreds fled. Construction stopped. The lions, larger than most, with powerful jaws and terrifying boldness, were no ordinary predators. They were hunters of men. Official records say 35 men were killed. Eyewitnesses claimed it was more, perhaps over 100. They came to be known by one name whispered in terror: the Tsavo man-eaters. Lieutenant Colonel John Patterson, the British officer in charge of the railway, took it upon himself to stop the slaughter. He laid traps, built thorn fences, staked out bait. For months, the lions evaded every attempt. But eventually, the reign of fear came to an end. Patterson shot and killed the first lion on December 9, 1898. The second fell 20 days later, after an intense hunt. The bodies were skinned and later sold to the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, where their reconstructed forms still stand, silent reminders of a terror that once stalked the savannah. But the question remains, why did they do it? Were the lions injured and unable to hunt traditional prey? Were they suffering from disease, like a tooth infection or parasite that drove them to seek easier targets? Or were they simply killers? Some say it was survival. Others say it was something darker, perhaps even evil. The Tsavo man-eaters didn't just hunt men, they haunted them. And over a century later, their reign still echoes, in legend, in museums, and in every shadowed corner of the African night. The Marsh Pride, the family that wouldn't break. In the golden heart of Kenya's Masai Mara, where the grasslands stretch into the horizon and danger lurks behind every shadow. One lion pride has become the most documented family in the wild, the marsh pride. For over 4 decades, their story has unfolded before the world's eyes. From the groundbreaking BBC series Big Cat Diary to countless documentaries and books, the marsh pride became household names. Lion royalty followed through the lens year after year. They survived everything nature threw at them: flash floods, crippling droughts, and brutal takeovers by rival males. Each generation passed the torch to the next, grooming future queens and kings beneath the acacia trees. But the wild was only half the danger. As the Masai Mara changed, so did the threats. The expanding boundary between wilderness and human settlement drew ever closer. Cattle grazed where zebra once roamed, and lions who strayed too far paid the ultimate price. In 2015, tragedy struck. 3 beloved members of the pride, Bibi, Allen, and Sienna, were poisoned by herders seeking to protect their livestock. It wasn't the first time lions had died this way, but this time, the world was watching. The outrage was immediate. Wildlife lovers, filmmakers, and scientists around the world mourned their loss. The marsh pride had become more than just lions on a screen. They were family, symbols of the fragile line between the wild and our own human world. And still, the pride did not fall. Through heartbreak and hardship, the remaining members regrouped. They defended their land. They raised the next generation. They mourned, but they moved forward, because the Mara allows no time for grief. Others might be stronger, more aggressive, but the marsh pride was something rare, resilient. They were tested by flood, by famine, by human cruelty, but they would not break. Over the years, new leaders emerged. Young cubs grew into bold lionesses and territorial males. Familiar names faded into memory, and new ones were whispered across the plains. Yet the story continued, one generation picking up where the last left off. A living legacy. In a world where the wild grows smaller each day, the marsh pride stands as a beacon of what we risk losing and what we must fight to protect. They are more than predators, more than characters on a screen. They are proof that even in the most dangerous places, family endures. The marsh pride is not the biggest, not the most violent, but perhaps they are the most loved. As the sun sets over the African plains, the reigns of kings may end, but their legends endure. From the ruthless power of the Mapogo to the scarred resilience of Scarface, from Cecil's tragic legacy to the terror of the Savo man-eaters and the enduring spirit of the marsh pride, each lion left a mark etched in time. Their stories live on in the roar of the wind, the eyes of new cubs, and the beating heart of the wild. They were more than beasts. They were symbols of strength, survival, and the untamed soul of nature. The circle of legends continues, and as long as lions roam, their legacy will never fade. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button and bell icon for more interesting wildlife stories.